this pretty round petal flower. It's a really good one to practice if you're just starting buttercream flowers, because you've got 3 different piping techniques here with the petals, the center and the stamen. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So to begin with, always make sure you put a layer of buttercream on your cupcake. This is a crumb coat, and it means if you pipe your flower and you're not keen on it, you can flick it off and start again and you haven't got bits of cake in your buttercream. But it also means if you have any gaps at all between the petals, it won't really matter because you won't see it. It will be the same colour underneath. Always make sure that you have a piece of paper towel handy. Now for the petals, this is just plain buttercream with no colouring in it. And the piping tip we've got in here is the Gem 123. It's got a fat end and a thin end, and it's curved in the middle. It's this curve that's going to create these nice uplifts to the edge of the petals. So you always want to make sure this thin end here is at the edge of the cake, because that's what creates this nice thin shape. And this fat end, the base of the tip, is always towards the center of the cake or touching the cake. For the center, I've used this dark brown color. It's Colour Splash Dark Brown. You don't need to dye very much, so just do a little bit. A little bit goes a long way, so you don't need much color either. And then this tip is a number 4 round tip. And for the stamen, I've used Colour Splash Sunflower Yellow, and it gives you this nice rich egg yolk sort of colour. And the piping tip in here is a number 2 round, so it's just even smaller, just a plain round nozzle. If you haven't got these round nozzles, when you load up your piping bag, you can just cut off a tiny little bit off the end and it will give you this nice round shape. It's very important that you don't have too much buttercream in your bag. This is what helps you to control what you're doing. So you just want a nice palm-sized amount of buttercream in the bag. And you want to make sure that you keep this bag nice and tight, because again, that's what controls what comes out the end of the bag. So just hold the edge of the bag here between your thumb and forefinger and give it a twist, and that will give you a nice tight bag. Now I don't know why I do this, but I always wrap the top of the bag around my thumb. It's totally optional. I've got no idea what made me do it, but I find it really comfortable. So that's up to you if you want to do that. You don't have to. So nice tight bag, not too much in there, and you want to make sure that this curve of the tip here is on the cupcake. So we're going to hold this curve parallel to the cupcake at all times. That's what's going to create the nice shape of the petal. Now I've lined up the thin end of this tip with the edge of the cupcake, so I know roughly that there is where I want to start my petal for it to be the right size to just come to the end of the cupcake case. So from here, you're going to turn your hand. This is still parallel to the cake. And then I'm going to turn, as I'm squeezing, I'm turning my hand in a circle shape to create the petals. So go again. Come in a little bit because you're going to come outwards. So you're just going to touch down, squeeze, move it round and off. So squeeze, go in a circle, stop squeezing but keep the motion going, and that's what gives you the nice neat edge on your petal. Just stop squeezing but you keep moving it round in a circle. You just go all the way around the cake And how many petals you get on will depend on how large you've made them. So it doesn't matter as long as you've gone around and covered the outer edge of the cupcake. When you've done your first layer, you'll notice that your bag is gone squidgy because obviously you've let some buttercream out. You'll see that there's lots of buttercream on the piping tip. You want to use your paper towel to wipe that off and keep it nice and clean, because that buttercream, when you do the next layer, it will smush all the petals you've already done, and it's really annoying. So just make sure that you always keep that nice and clean, and you want to keep this bag nice and tight. Okay, so we'll put another row of petals on. I'm going to go over the same ones again. I'm just going to keep them a little bit smaller, only slightly, just to give a little bit of movement to the flower. So just come in and over each one. It's exactly the same motion. So you turn the cupcake with this hand, line yourself up, go round and off. Turn the cake, line up, go round and off. Turn the cake, line yourself up, turn in a circle, stop and off. Go round and off. You see, this hand turns the cupcake. It's this hand that creates that shape. So that's 2 layers of petals. If you wanted to put another layer of petals on, you can. If you love buttercream, I'm going to leave mine at 2. Now to do the center, you want your dark brown and your number 4 round tip. And again, you want to make sure that's nice and tight and that your tip's nice and clean. So if you pick up your cake, you can see where the circle in the center needs to be, and it would just cover up those rough petal edges as well. So I'm going to eyeball it, but if you wanted to turn a spare piping tip upside down and just push it down in the middle to make a circular marker, you could do that, but you can see where the circle is, so I'm just going to do it by eye. So I'm going to place my piping tip where I want my blobs to be, squeeze and come off. Now you see I'm not lifting that tip at all, so I'm creating very, very small little blobs. I'm just going around, and the buttercream underneath will move out of the way, so if you've got rough petal edges, don't worry, they'll move. So just keep turning your cake and putting your little blobs in to make your circle. You can hold your cupcake towards you so that you can see what you're doing. So just go all the way around, and you want to make them all the same sort of size, like that. So when you've done your circle, you're going to come in and fill in the middle. And if you're struggling to hold the cake and pipe, you can set it down and just use your other hand to steady your piping hand. So you can just rest your elbow on the table, use this hand to steady you, and pipe in exactly the same way. And then you would move the cake. This piping hand, you really want to keep it as still as possible so that it's comfortable and you've got full control over what you're doing. Now, I like the centers to be sort of rounded, so I'm going to put another layer of dots on, but I'm going to come in. So I'm going to leave that outer edge alone, and I'm going to come in and fill in, just coming in one in exactly the same way. So I'm hardly moving the tip, I'm just squeezing out a splodge, stop and come off, squeeze, stop, squeeze, stop, one in the middle. So when you're happy with your centre, you can add your stamen. So I'm going to take this nice yellow colour and make sure you've got a nice tight bag and a nice clean tip. With this one, we're going to move the tip up as we squeeze. So I'm coming in right to the edge of these little brown splodges for the centre. I'm going to squeeze and then squeeze as I lift. Stop squeezing but keep moving up. So touch down and squeeze. Now start to lift. Stop squeezing and off. If you lift it too soon, if you squeeze and lift too soon, well, that one's stuck, you can find that they don't stick very well and they can come off on the piping tip. And you just need to touch down and squeeze a little bit more before you start to lift if it does that. So touch down, squeeze, lift, like that, see? I didn't squeeze enough down before I started to lift. And it happens all the time. Touch down, squeeze, now lift, off. And go all the way around. They don't have to be all the same length or size. You just want them roughly the same. And you're going to go all the way around. And you see I'm not coming directly upwards either. I'm sort of following the line of the petals. Just keep going round until you've done the whole thing. Like that. And again, if you find that you're struggling to hold the cake and pipe, you can set it down and use your other hand to help you steady. So you can just do it like this. It's exactly the same motion. And then you move the cake around. Carry on until you've gone around the whole edge, and it just makes that centre sort of come to life. And there you go. There's your round petal flower. It's a really good one to practice so you get all those techniques down to a fine art.